Around 35 million years ago, a rock from space slammed into what is now Virginia, and besides really ruining the days of a couple of dinosaurs, it also left an intense crater, which made the water around what is now Norfolk deep. When the King started filling rivers with dirt, the Powhatan people, who'd lived there for a long time and had at least a basic grasp of physics, said, hey, don't fill in the creeks and rivers. The water is going to find a way to flow in its natural path.
There is a place in this country that if they were hit by a Category 1 storm, it would have more disastrous effects. I said, well, where is that place? I'll be there. They said the Hampton Roads, Norfolk area.
Norfolk is one of the top 3 areas in the country vulnerable to sea level rise and coastal flooding. You know, people that live here, this happens almost daily.
Hampton Roads is a way of defining at least 7 cities, and so we're one big family.
Between the HBCUs that are here, the largest naval base in the world.
You know, Wanda Sykes is a Portsmouth native.
You may just do a read through. Hampton Roads, which hosts the largest Navy base in the world, Naval Station Norfolk. Not only is Naval Station Norfolk home to the 2nd Fleet, it is also home to 80,000 active duty service members, most of America's F-22 fighters, and 75 ships.
They all come together here. That's what I loved about this area.
This is a beautiful place, but
we lost homes, we've lost property, we've lost people. The St. Paul's Development Project is a major concern for me. Over 7,000 black residents being displaced.
St. Paul's, like many public housing communities around the country, is more prone to climate flooding than the rest of the city.
You spend your life breathing in bad air, drinking bad water. My God, that is exactly what is happening in every one of our neighborhoods.
Black folks have a lot to worry about, but this is an issue that affects us more than everybody else.
How are we the ones being hurt the worst by a climate crisis that we contribute to the least?
Every day when I come in, I think about a hurricane. In a minute, it can all be swept away.
We got to figure this out. We don't have any other choice but to figure this out for our future.
Handing off. Hey, yo, what up, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? Y'all may have met my cousin Rashida. My name is Daryl. I'm here to promote my new mixtape. What's your name, sir? How you been today? Oh, good to see your face with that smiling face, man. Yo, I used to only care about, like, my ice and my jewelry, but then I started learning about the climate. It's bad. Now I care about the ice caps. They melting. So I came here to perform my new single for y'all. It's called Green Shit, and I'ma just need y'all to get me hype real quick. Hey, yo, DJ! Hey, yo, DJ, drop the beat. Green shit is better. 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 That's climate change. You might not need sweaters. I'm finding the fly, clean energy guy. Don't hate on your bar cause I'm smooth like faux leather. Show you what my green shit do. No traffic lane. I'm working to cut my commute. Solar panel game. My heat and pumps heat my house evenly. Got community gardens where I plant and smoke on my greenery. EVs are cooler, the ride is much smoother. I feel like the Jetsons right into the future. Or I could call Uber. Yo, go carbon emissions. Go veganism. Do your thing, go green. I'm out. Yo, thank you. DJ, you can cut the beat. Yo, we got some really, really important people here to perform for y'all for a whole hour. It's serious, it's popping, it's love. Give it up for my boy Alex.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Alfaro. Thank you for being here at Roots and Roots. Raíces y rutas. Semillas de vegetables y frutas, but also routing our awareness beyond our immediate surroundings towards a global scale climate. We are the caretakers of our one and only planet, a planet that is dying, a planet that desperately needs us to act. Not so much in acts of defiance, but in conscious change that creates meaning and purpose for us to care for something that will remain long after we are all gone. For those that came before us, to those that are with us, and one day to those that will inherit what we leave behind, may we leave this planet better than when we were born into it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this term that's called mixed status. It's a relatively new term, but the guilt that our documented family members endure is not. The guilt transcends beyond the choices our parents made and the impact it has on our siblings. The concept of assimilation and ancestry tends to be in a never-ending battle for our souls. Yet it can also teach us about compassion, love, and serve as a constant reminder that if one of us suffers, we all suffer. Here to share her light through her song titled Mi Niña, please give a warm welcome to singer, songwriter, storyteller, and activist Doris Anaí Muñoz.
Good evening. Thank you, Alex, for the intro. My name is Doris Anaí. We have Miguel Ángel Flores on guitar right over here, and Teresa Cáceres on cello right here. I grew up as a first-generation daughter of formerly undocumented immigrants from Mexico. I grew up knowing that I was the only citizen in my family. I think when you grow up in a family fearing their place in this country, you question the idea of what you can actually call home. When I was in college, a few months before my graduation, my brother was deported at 29 years old when he was brought to this country at 2 years old. A film was made about that story. It actually premiered 2 years ago across the street at the Lumiere, so tonight feels like a full circle. For me, this song that I'm about to play was supposed to be for that soundtrack, and it's really a letter to my inner child to hold on to hope when you feel like you're just drowning in fear. And so for those who don't understand Spanish, that's really the ethos of the song, but I'm sure you'll be able to feel it. And if you do understand Spanish, I just want you to invite your inner child and have them sit right in front of you as if these lyrics are just for them. Linda, mi niña, el tiempo te alcanza, corriendo por distancia, te veo, no es tan lejos, no es tan lejos. Lo más cerca es posible, mi llanto sí me dice te quiero, no es tan lejos si te dejo. La tormenta ya ha pasado, mi milagro sí me dice te espero. Única y libre, eso es lo que dicen. Única y libre. Es posible estar en tu mente y verlo al frente. El sol ya viene, el sol ya viene. Mi niña, te quiero, mi niña, te veo, mi niña, espera, chiquilla, mi niña, espera, chiquilla. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Death is a natural part of life, an inevitability that we must all come to grips with, but not when the causes are man-made and intentional, not when it could have been prevented. There is an 85-mile stretch of land along the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans in the river parishes of Louisiana. That stretch of land makes up what is locally known as Cancer Alley. It's called that because it contains over 200 petrochemical plants and refineries. The residents of Cancer Alley are suffering from the effects of extreme pollution from fossil fuel and petrochemical industries that have increased the risk of maternal, reproduction, and newborn health harms, cancers, and respiratory ailments. Here to shed light with her personal testimony, please help me in welcoming community activist Sharon Kayette Levine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Kayette Levine. I'm the director and founder of a faith-based organization called Rise St. James, Louisiana. Back in 2018, when our governor, John Bell Edward, announced that a $9.4 billion Formosa Plastics plant would be built 2 miles from my home, I said no. I said no because we are already overburdened with 12 industries within a 10-mile radius. We have over 100 storage tanks within that same 10-mile radius. So back in 2018, I was a member of another association called HELP, Humanitarian Enterprise of Loving People. We asked them to let's fight this industry. They said we couldn't fight it because the governor approved it. They said we couldn't fight it because it was a done deal. We did not accept that. So we started to organize in my den. First I prayed. I asked God if I should leave, if I should stay. He told me to fight. I've been fighting ever since. In October of 2018, we had about 10 people in my den. And we talked about we didn't want any more. We talked about our public officials are in the pockets of industry. So we formed our first march, November 3rd. I never forget that day. The sheriff department said we couldn't march on the highway because the Sunshine Bridge was under construction. So we said, okay, so we marched on the sidewalk. And it went from there. We were angry. We were upset because they wanted to put another one in our community, like we are not human beings. Our public officials said that this is not Cancer Alley. They said that we are not dying, and we said, yes, we are. We are dying like flies. We have, the parish council voted in January of 2019 to give this plant permission to build, and we've been fighting ever since. It's not built. And then we went to court. Judge Trudy White ruled against Formosa on all 10 counts in our favor. But of course, they appealed it. Then we went to court again and again. Now we are appealing it because they still want Formosa to come in. So we will know next month if the Supreme Court in Louisiana would accept our appeal. And if not, Formosa think they're coming in. I still say they're not coming in because we are not going to let it happen. Our politicians don't care. Our people are dying. They're dying so fast. So many men have prostate cancer. A lot of them don't want to talk about it. So many women have breast cancer. So many women have miscarriages. So many people, it's so much. And so many people in St. James, they don't want to go to the doctor, fearful that they might have cancer. Any of us could have cancer because we are bombarded. When you walk out your door, you can smell the pollution. When I used to get up in the morning to go to work, 6:30 in the morning, that odor would get into your nostrils. It would smell so bad, and we breathe that air every day. We asked Mosaic to cover the sulfur, the pile of sulfur that they had out in the opening. They refused to cover it. And now we have a new governor. He's not helping at all. And Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, they don't help us either. In fact, they are suing us along with Formosa Plastics. They are supposed to be helping us. So it's like we're out there by ourselves. But we do have somebody on our side, and that's the good Lord. And the good Lord have to fight this battle for us. We can't do it anymore. It's a lot. And so whenever we have our meetings, we pray and ask God to give us the knowledge to fight these plants. I have a friend named Jean. Jean has stage 4 liver cancer. She's dying. She told me she's praying so hard, she's asking God to let her live. I'm praying along with her. We have Melvin. He found out he had stage 2 colon cancer. He lost so much weight. He's praying also. We all are praying. We're praying for something to happen where they would stop poisoning us. All we want to do is breathe clean air and drink clean water. That's all we're asking for. And we want to stay in St. James where I live. So thank you for listening.
They say that if we don't stand for something, we'll eventually die for nothing. What do you stand for? How do you protect the sacredness of your own roots when those roots have been watered with centuries of bloodshed, sweat, and tears? Theft, deception, and forced migration is often described by watered-down historians that heavily embellished and whitewashed the real suffering and pain that the original inhabitants of the stolen land we currently live on once cared for. Yet, after hundreds of years of that suffering, countless broken promises, treaties, and agreements, la lucha sigue. And it won't end until things are rectified and the war is won. Here to inspire us into action, put your hands together and open your hearts to Indigenous musician, scholar, and community organizer, Dr. Lila June Johnston.
Ya'at'e shik'e, aro shidane'e. Greetings, my people and my kin. She'e nanisht ejitachitni. I'm from the Nanisht Ejitachitni clan of the Dene Nation. We are also incorrectly known as Navajo. And we are indigenous to what is now called New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. But we call it Denebakea, the people's land. And I'm keenly aware that we are all standing on Tongva and Chumash ancient homelands. Raise your hand if you are not Tongva or Chumash. We are all standing and probably more honestly squatting on someone else's home that was, as you know, pretty brutally taken away. First by the Spanish and the mission system, which forcefully located indigenous peoples from their homelands into these missions where they were enslaved, forced to build missions, and systematically abused, their languages and cultures prohibited. And then when gold was discovered in California, there was a legal bounty put on indigenous peoples. So you can imagine living in California in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and knowing that you would be hunted and that your scalp was worth $5 in Sacramento. And so I come to you, though, with a message of hope, despite this terrible history that we are descendant of. And that message is that each and every one of us has the opportunity to be a part of the solution by actively participating in decolonization and standing firmly in solidarity with the indigenous peoples wherever we are. And my grandfather said, the way that we all used to get along, because in California alone, there were over 80 languages spoken. It was an extremely rich place in terms of cultural, linguistic, and ecological biodiversity. And in this place, the way everyone got along is whenever you went to someone's homeland, you followed their ceremonies, you followed their language, you followed their ways, because they were the experts of that specific place. And their language was the sound of the earth speaking through humanity in that specific place. And so as we venture around and walk around, I don't care if you're in Panama, if you're in Beijing, if you're in Australia, if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Seattle, if you're in Cincinnati, wherever you are, stand behind the local indigenous peoples. And to me, home means that. It means being in solidarity with people. That's where my home is. And so if you are not of this land, how do we come to belong in a world of settler colonization? How on earth could we who are not Tongva, who are not Chumash, possibly come to belong in this place? And I believe the way we can come to belong is to stand not in front of the Tongva, not beside the Tongva, but behind the Tongva, and allow them to lead us. And as we stand behind them, we will come to truly, deeply belong in this place. So with that, I'm just gonna sing a little song. And in my little speech, so happy to be here. Thank you to all the organizers. It's been a joy to be here. Thanks. Indigenous people, shine your light, we are equal, yeah, yeah. I remember the days when our prayers were illegal. I remember the days when being Indian was lethal, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had a rough past, but get ready for the sequel. Get ready for the glorious comeback of our people, oh yeah. Rise up, all you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I could feel it in my heart, can you feel it in your blood? I could hear the seventh fire calling us to wake up. All nations rise, rise up, 'cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, 'cause now's our time. With forgiveness as my bow and my prayers as my arrows, pull it back and let go. I watch them fly like sparrows. Have hope, have hope. With compassion as our shield and faith down to our marrow, we will walk the pollen path even when it gets narrow. Yeah, yeah, resurrect. Yes, you can bet that we seen the single mama raising children on the res. We seen domestic violence tear apart what we have left. We seen the alcohol take it all and leave us dead. We've seen the children take their own lives when they can't take the dread anymore. No, we can't take the dread anymore. Or no, I won't take the dread anymore. 'Cause I can't take the dread anymore. Yes, it's a war, but we've seen it all before, and now we know we can change it, 'cause that's why we were born. We know we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Yes, we are the ones that Grandma has been praying for. So rise up, all you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I could feel it in my heart. Can you feel it in your blood? I could hear the seventh fire calling us to wake up. Pueblo hermoso, levántanse, es nuestro tiempo. No tienes que esconderte más, porque ahorita es nuestro tiempo. This next verse is in Spanish to honor all the indigenous peoples who lived south of that imaginary border that has divided a continent that was once very much connected. Mujer indígena, tú eres tan sagrada y traigas medicina de tu suelo todavía. A pesar del abuso de tu cuerpo y tu tierra, respetamos tus ancestros y la suya, cultura, hombre indígena. Tú eres honorable y yo veo la fuerza que todavía sobrevive. A pesar del abuso de tu raza venerable, yo respeto tus ritos, tus danzas, tus padres, guerreros del amor y guerreros de la paz. Sí, no vamos a escondernos más. We are warriors of love. We are warriors of peace. And we will not hide ourselves anymore. All nations rise, rise up, 'cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, 'cause now's our time. Yay!
Yes, you did. When people speak of the old country, they usually mean somewhere in Europe. When I speak of the old country, I mean Huatelmayan, which in Nahuatl and Quiche, the Mayan language my great-grandmother spoke to me when I was an infant, means the place of many trees. It's important for us to understand where we come from in order to know where we are meant to go in this life. It is also important to understand that although things may appear to be the same from day to day, change is the only real constant in life. But what do you do when that change is brought on by colonization and imperialism? Do you know what it means to feel like you are not sovereign? Our next artist does and addresses the changes that have turned the Puerto Rico she grew up in into a place that is almost unrecognizable to her. Please help me welcome to the stage artist and environmentalist Amira Ode Quiñones.
Hi, good night. My name is Amira, and I'm from the beautiful islands of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico means everything to me. Puerto Rico is growing up as a kid, learning to swim and snorkel at the beach, hanging with the neighbors from that area. It's perfect summers with sunsets at the beach. It's watching birds with my grandfather at the backyard and learning everything I could about plants from my grandmother. Home is big tables full of food and a bunch of friends sitting all around it. And growing up around so much beauty, it's no wonder for me that I grew up and decided to dedicate my life to study it and protect everything that was around me. However, home is also the place that has taught me how the climate crisis and how colonization can threaten everything that I care about. For example, the coral reef where I learned to snorkel at when I was a kid is not there anymore. The corals died, and the neighbors I hung out with, they're not there anymore. They were displaced to put in short-term rentals for tourists. The summers have now turned into constant days of heat alerts saying, don't go outside, please stay hydrated. There are less birds in the backyard, and grandma's plants are struggling and dying in the heat. And those big tables full of food and friends now have a bunch of empty chairs around it because many had to leave Puerto Rico to find work and to find other opportunities. The climate crisis is not something that is going to happen many years from now. The climate crisis is here already, and it's affecting everything that I care about. And sometimes when I talk about this with people from other countries, they say, but if the situation is so urgent, why isn't the country doing that much about it yet? And the communities are doing everything they can, but the options are limited when we are still a US colony, when the US is a government that still denies the urgency that the climate crisis is. The options are very limited for us to take action when the US imposed a fiscal control board that manages all the expenses that Puerto Rico has and is focused on austerity measures that affect healthcare, education, labor rights, and basically everything that would help us be safer and stronger against climate disasters. For decades, the US has told us that we will not be able to survive without them. But when we actually needed help to survive after Hurricane Maria, they left us alone and they threw paper towel at us. No nation should ever have to experience the effects of the climate crisis and the loss that it causes, feeling like they have no other option but to sit around and wait. We should all have the power and the freedom to be able to take action in our own hands as soon as we want it and however we want it to be. My ancestors were already displaced from Palestine, and I refuse to be displaced from my home. Puerto Rico is my inspiration daily to keep learning, fighting, dreaming, and organizing against the climate crisis. And I really hope that you can join me in this fight so we can make a better world together. Que viva Puerto Rico y que viva Palestina. Muchas gracias.
I come from the spoken word community, and whenever we, as spoken word artists, share something new, we like to say we got a new. Can I say the word? Okay, so when I say I got something new for you today, if I say new shit, I want you guys to say new shit. So, can repeat after me. All right, I got a new piece I want to share with you guys today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is specifically for the Hollywood Climate Summit 2024. No one asked for my consent before we left and went on a lifelong journey, riding La Bestia's route in order to plant fertile roots, walking past empty water gallons and deserted boots through the desert heat, trying to beat the beating sun, burning scalps and fatigue plagued my mother and I, her newborn son, the chosen one, to embody the ideal of liberty and democracy's appeal, walked for days without a proper meal, revealed illness mom tried to conceal. I ceased breathing in San Isidro. Seizures, followed by limp limbs. She was forced to stop and kneel, pray to Guadalupe with fervent zeal. Fear and desperation gripped on my clammy skin, yellow eyes, poisoned water mixed with formula. My hunger cries polluted the air that bled into California. Brought back to life by a midwife who breathed air into my lungs as my mother sang my favorite lullaby, hoping that I wouldn't die and that I would just sleep through the night. Dos elefantes se columpiaban sobre la tela de una araña. Y cuando vieron que resistía, fueron a llamar otro elefante. I stopped living in enchantment. I don't remember my origin story orated to me and pieced together through others' memories. My mother's primarily in between sobs and constant apologies. See, she lives with regret for what the government did to me. Labeled a wetback, that was our starlit letter. No one claims credit for what led her to come here. The courage to travel 2,902 miles is documented in USCIS files, deferred deportation trials that birthed my signature crooked smile and forced me to grow in the shadows while she scrubbed toilets and hard swallowed whatever pride she left behind in Guatemala. Safeguarded by my abuela, a cautionary tale for my tia. The decision to migrate was born from a complex series of ideas rooted in survival. Escaping a political climate my young father was tired of fighting. He wanted to leave the States as soon as he arrived. 3 more American-born children were not his anchor. See, my old man's rancor was stemmed from being condemned to a life as a second-class citizen, immigrant, forever locked into being poverty-stricken. My father used to plan his return. He went back as ash in an urn. I didn't get a chance to bury him. Instead, I resurrect his memory through conjuring a vivid imagery as I do now. See, my father migrated to the U.S. shortly after escaping forced enlistment by militants fighting against a corrupted government funded by First World imperialism. The U.S. did everything but strip Central America of its sovereignty in the early 1980s. During the Reagan administration, the CIA was in Guatemala supporting an insurrection, a coup against President Fernando Lucas Garcia. It was done via a series of assassinations over indigenous soil. The indigenous inhabitants were killed by the thousands in the name of Shenandoah oil. U.S. interests dictated the bloodshed and turned oil in order for all of us to pay 55 cents a gallon at the Exxon Mobil. Now let's switch the focal. Let's go back to my familia, why they left their tierra patria. My ancestors once lived and farmed land stolen by the United Fruit Company, forced to migrate to the 5th zone of the Lemonade Colony, one of the poorest slums in the capital city, where the death rate is commonplace, like heat that's 100+ degrees, forced acceptance until it becomes automatic. This conditioning is beyond problematic, because freedom to be vocal is guaranteed in the Constitution so long as you're not exposing its corrupted institutions. If I breathe the air that is full of pollutants of international political climate, it's like climbing up a mountain without a top, because freedom ain't free. Like critical thought is censored, the proof lies in the way people defend the oppressor. See, history has the memory of an elephant and the ignorance of wild asses. Different sides to the same coin reinforced in November ballots. My Stockholm point. My parents defended this country even though we weren't wanted. Staying wasn't so much defiance, but more like trauma bonded. Many of my folks' friends never went home in fear their ICE cases would be abandoned. Then their sacrifice would have been in vain. So they learned to shut up and not complain. As accountants became landscapers, doctors became parking attendants, anything to make an honest living so at least their children would have a shot at making it. beyond making rent, making ends meet, making it make sense, making their past tense a marker for how far we've made it in just a generation or two. That's why I speak my parents into existence every chance that I do. Late 20th century refugees who didn't know that asylum was a legal possibility. Lack of resources and education caused us to stumble during those first harsh days of our arrival into the concrete jungle, better known as the corner of 9th and Alvarado. Getting paid under the table, cash-only exchanges meant folks were victims of constant shortchanging. Collecting cans and bottles, being ridiculed for being survivalists through our conservation. 6 bags of collected cans bought us dinner reservations at the McDonald's on Olympic and Westlake. The same Mickey D's we had our court-ordered visitation dates. But we learned to adapt, surviving off scraps. Without advancement opportunities, still, we became apt, paying taxes in order to establish a legal paper trail in hopes that one day our children would prevail. Now, what would you do for a loved one? Someone you cared for, or even someone you casually knew? Does your level of compassion change with the quality of your relationship to a person, or do you do what you do simply because it's the right thing to do? Hurricane Katrina devastated the southeast part of Louisiana and moved through New Orleans and ended near Mobile, Alabama, almost 20 years ago. But the impact of that natural disaster still lingers today. If not for the community's unity in New Orleans and the neighboring areas that the hurricane affected, additional deaths would have been added to the staggering 1,390 that the hurricane claimed. Here to speak about the resilience of the people of New Orleans, help me give a big welcoming round of applause to community activist, minister, president, and CEO of Hip Hop Caucus, the one and only Rev Yearwood.
I've asked my ancestors for permission to tell this story. So I am from Louisiana. I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana. And Louisiana has some of the most amazing and beautiful black women in the world. From Madam C.J. Walker to Mahalia Jackson to soul singer Irma Thomas to Big Frida to Dr. Beverly Wright and Time 100 recipient Sharon Levine. Have the most amazing people who fight for their land. And on August 29th of 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And the reason why this story is so important now, 19 years later, is that we are still in the midst of a climate crisis. And this story is to reflect not just the carbon in the atmosphere, all of that. The story is to reflect the human toll of the crisis. Because when Hurricane Katrina hit, there was another amazing woman who goes by the name of Diane French Cole, better known as Mama D, in the 7th Ward on Derjewan Street. And like many, she could have left when the storm came. But being someone who was trained by Bayard Rustin, as well as being the first woman to lead the NAACP in New Orleans, this beautiful, golden-skinned black woman, small in stature, but had the most amazing silver gray dreadlocks that was as long as she was tall. So Mama D stayed behind because she knew something about community. But let me just share with you, when the water rose, there were folks who were left behind. There were those who were left behind in the jails. There were those who were left behind in Charity Hospital. There were the special needs who were left behind, who didn't even know what was happening. And then there were the seniors who built New Orleans, those proud black folks who understood that while they were for years going through Jim Crow and last hired and first fired and spit on, those who had built that community in the 7th Ward, who are now in their 80s and 90s, those people were left behind. We know this because we now have seen the fact that when the wheelchairs were at the bottom of certain steps, and we found grandmothers trying to climb up the steps, we know the children who were left behind with Down syndrome, who probably didn't even know what was happening when the water rose. Those little girls, maybe adults in age, but children in mentality, drowning, not knowing what is happening, not knowing that there's a climate crisis, not knowing that there is an entity that is putting forth a business plan that means a death sentence for their community. So Mama D stayed behind because she understood the toll of what we have gone through as a people, fighting for racial justice and climate justice. And what she realized is that she didn't know this, but at some point in time, those grandmothers and grandfathers, because of the water, began to float down the street. And Mama D would watch them and would run outside and catch them, those bodies of those seniors or those children, and tie them to her tree. Because she said, those are my neighbors. And they can't be just washed away. They can't become alligator food. This is what the climate crisis had somebody do, to run out into the street, to grab somebody, to tie them to a tree so they wouldn't be lost. That's what we have before us. And so Mama D was do that. And when they asked her, Mama D, why did you risk your life to catch someone's grandmother who was floating down to Urgent Street? And she said, those are my neighbors. So I come here today to you at this Hollywood Climate Summit to let you know that our neighbors are dying. And this is a time when we need storytellers and screenwriters, musicians, poets, those who've been given that radical gift of making something real. We need you now, because the reality is that we're actually not winning this battle for existence. And there will be more neighbors who will be floating down the street. If we come together as storytellers, as musicians, as producers, then we got us. We got us. We can then beat this thing. We can help us to transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. We got us. We don't need to keep hearing about 128 degrees in New Delhi, or folks going to Mecca dying on the sidewalk, or cooking in Phoenix. We have to be bold to tell the story. We got us if we do that. And so with that, in the spirit of New Orleans, someone who went through Katrina herself, I want to bring the electric, the amazing Dawn Richard. And as we bring Dawn Richard to the stage, never forget, you were born for this moment. You were born for this time so that we can win on climate.
This is from my city. This is from my home. I wrote this about my journey, what I lost, but also about hope. And I hope you hear it. I hope you feel it. I hope it moves you, because in the end, we can be hopeful. We need that hope. We need to cling to it. Words have a way of hurting, like dirt they throw in there to bury all I've got. I know the pain like you feel the same. Keep your feelings on love. I know you want me to feel pain, but I'm never gonna stop. Feel our energy, it's on repeat. Feel this energy, we on repeat. So I'ma climb this mountain, and I'm never gonna stop. We gon' climb this mountain, yeah, yeah, till we reach the top. And we're never gonna stop. And we're never gonna stop. Never gonna stop. I'm gonna claim it, regardless if you know my name. It's not the fame I'm searching for. We working on real change. Can you feel this message? We've been pushing it every day since the first day we felt it. Can y'all feel it? Feel the energy. It's on repeat. Feel our energy, yeah. We on repeat. So I'ma climb this mountain, and I'm never gonna stop. We gon' climb this mountain, yeah, yeah, till we reach the top. And we're never gonna stop. And we're never gonna stop. It feel like love, it feel like faith, it feel like hope. We feel whole. It feel like love, feel like faith, feel like soul. We feel whole. We feel like love, we feel like hope. We feel like faith, we feel hope. It feel like love, feel like faith, feel like joy, feel like love, feel like faith, faith. It feel like joy, feel like faith, faith. Ooh, 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 ooh. It feel like love, it feel like hope, it feel like faith. We feel whole.
That was amazing. Thank you. Our resilience is a reminder that we have the ability to not only heal ourselves, but to heal each other. And with that, if we lead with love, compassion, faith, and hope, we have the opportunity to leave a better world for our future generations so that our children's children don't have to survive, but thrive. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
How absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for showing up for day 2 of the Hollywood Climate Summit, where Hollywood makes Earth the star again. Please join us in the lobby. We have the Warner Brother Discovery Networking Hour, and we'll meet you guys out there. See you tomorrow for day 3.